So friends, interviewing is a skill. This skill is driven with a lot of responsibility. It is a chance to make or break some fresh graduates' career. So here I am trying to give you some tips to conduct interviews, to conduct a good interview for interviewing and selecting articles as fresh graduates out of college. This may not be the only and the best way to conduct an interview, but this is based on my experience of having done quite a few interviews, a few hundred of them, for positions at various levels in my corporate avatar, where I was interviewing right from entry level candidates to even seniors like general managers and even captains of aircrafts who would fly an aircraft and who is technically the owner of the aircraft. Interviewing, therefore, is a skill that needs to be developed, and it has to be developed with a lot of empathy, such that the candidate, whether he's selected or no, has a good experience, has a good interaction, carries a good impression about the firm. To that extent, the interviewer is a brand ambassador of the firm, of the organization for which he is conducting an interview. Well, while it is a stress on one's time, it is a duty that is given by the organization, a responsibility that has been given by the organization, and these are some tips to conduct that interview in such a way that the right candidate is selected and the wrong candidate, not the ideal candidate, not a candidate who is not ideal, who would be a misfit in the organization, is not selected, because the wrong candidate does harm to himself and to the organization in the long run. So here we go. So effective interviewing is crucial to attract and select the best fresh graduate. So this will talk about effective interviewing skills that need to be developed and some techniques that can be used or some suggestions that can be kept in mind. It's a very responsible assignment, as I said. It's an opportunity to break or make someone's career, some fresh graduate's career. The right candidate joining the right organization makes a good career, and it is you who will decide whether you will be instrumental in making that good career for himself. To that extent, it's an opportunity that is given to you which needs to be exercised with great caution and with great empathy and seriousness. It's a chance to become a mentor for a fresh graduate. If the candidate joins the organization, he will remain with you for 3 years during the article period, and thereafter you will always remain his senior. He will have a chance to look up to you as he grows in his career. To that extent, you can become a mentor, because in a way it is quite likely that this interview is one of the first interviews that the candidate goes through. And as they say, like the first love, you remember the first interview for all your life. And you have a chance, it's an opportunity sent to you to become a mentor to a junior who's at the threshold of entering the profession. It's a skill which is best learned, but it is learning, unfortunately, it is learning at somebody's expense, at somebody's cost. Every interview is a learning process. While it is a learning process for the candidate, it's also a learning process for you as somebody who's taking an interview. There is always something that you learn from every interview. I have learned every time from every interview that I've conducted. After the interview, I've thought through. I've thought through whether I did justice, whether I gave enough time, whether I was attentive, whether I was listening, whether I was able to get the right information which will help me to select the right candidate or reject the wrong candidate for the job that I was interviewing for. And as they say, practice makes a perfect man. Well, it is at the cost of somebody. Once you are aware, at least one has to take, I would strongly suggest that the practice has to be taken with all seriousness. Pay attention, maintain eye contact, avoid distractions. These days, mobile phone is a big distraction. It is best to keep the phone on silent. Tell your office not to disturb you for the 10-15 minutes that you are taking the interview. Your full attention has to be given to the candidate. The candidate has earned that because he's coming for the interview. He's giving his time. And it is you who will have to select the right candidate. So you have to show and ensure that you're not distracted by either because you are busy or because of you have some pressing things to be done. But once you sit in an interview, you have to give your word to the candidate, and the candidate will see it. Take notes. In a 10-15 minute interview, sometimes you see some observations, some thoughts are going in your mind, you're observing, and these observations, these notes, it's suggested, it's strongly suggested, it's best to note them, a word, a sentence about the candidate, something that you observed, something that he spoke, some word that he used. These are some cues that you want to take. Note it down. It will show your seriousness. The candidate will also get serious, and by your writing down, by your scribbling some notes, you will also show all your attention uh, and justice to the job that you are doing. Listen to the context, understand the candidate's background and experience. Well, a fresh graduate may not have many experiences, but he definitely has a background. To check on his background, about his schooling, about his parents, about his colleagues, about his family may be a good example. In fact, to start with such questions about his family, about his background would help, because that would make the candidate very comfortable. So always start with some background talk, making the candidate comfortable and helping him come out of the stress which every candidate for sure feels when he appears for an interview. The best thing to do is to show empathy, create a welcoming of atmosphere, a welcoming smile, a warm reception, to check whether the candidate was comfortable finding the place, whether he was comfortable when he was waiting for his turn, whether he was offered some tea or coffee as per the rules of the organization, whether he was being generally explained about the company by somebody from HR. These are some good, nice gestures which can be done. Doesn't take more than a half a minute or a minute, but it shows concern. And showing concern is always an asset, which in my view should always be done. Acknowledge the journey, recognize the limited work experience. A fresh graduate will have limited experience, but tell him very clearly that you're going to look at his focus and pay your attention on the potential that the candidate has. Your whole exercise, in my view, especially when recruiting a fresh graduate, is to check on the potential that the candidate may have. Every candidate is different, every candidate has a potential. It is for you to find out that potential such that that potential meets the requirement of the firm. And to understand his potential, you'll have to ask some honest, straight, piercing questions. Be patient. When you've asked a question, you've asked a potential, you've tried to reach the potential of the candidate, you have to give enough time to the candidate to thoughtfully respond. If the candidate takes time, give him that time. Remember, kaun banega crorepati? Time is given. After the first few questions, enough time is given to the candidate to think and answer. Candidate has earned that. He's earned that time. That is his. It is his time. And in my view, you are bound, if I can use the word, you are bound to give him that time, that leeway to think and answer. If you rush it, he may not be able to do a good job, and you may not get to the bottom of what you are trying to understand from the candidate. Effective communication is important. And what is effective communication? Provide a detailed job interview. You already know what you're interviewing for. You already seen his CV. It is absolutely necessary that you provide a detailed job scope and the growth opportunities. Like typically in a firm, what would happen once the articles are over? What are the chances of his growth? Give some examples. Share some example of people who have become partners, who have graduated to become partners. The top position that any CA firm would have from starting from an article. Maybe you are an example. Maybe you started in the firm as an article, and now maybe you are a senior manager or a director or a partner. Maybe you want to share your story. Maybe you want to share your journey and what and how you could achieve the position that you are, so that you are on this side of the table, and how tomorrow he can be on the other side of the table, from being a candidate to being a senior in the organization. Ask open-ended questions. Open-ended questions puts the candidate in ease, and he is able to answer. What are those open-ended questions? Talk about his interest. Every candidate has some interest. It is for you to find out what is he interested in. It is not necessary that he has to be interested only in his academics, extracurricular activities, social work, family work, travel, sports, so many things that a candidate would have done in his school and college days. It may be a good idea to get to know and understand how he took part in them, how he excelled, how he addressed the failures, if he lost a match, if he lost a game, how he addressed and how he coped with that. That will show his potential. Provide feedback. Based on his answers, it may be nice and polite, in a polite way, to give him a feedback of what he has responded and how he has impressed you or he has not impressed you. You may think twice before giving a negative feedback, but don't even wait to give a positive feedback, because everybody likes a positive feedback. And if you find something positive, which every candidate has, please do share it with him. It's nice to appreciate, especially youngsters. Everybody likes encouragement. This will work like an encouragement. I always encourage the candidate. I always compliment the candidate on what, if he shares something and which he's achieved something. I think it should be something, whether the candidate, again as I say, whether the candidate joins or no is a different story. But he'll remember that there was somebody who appreciated his achievement, and he will remember all his life. He will want to do it when he also becomes a senior. So, provide detailed job description, ask open-ended questions, provide feedback. Assessment of the potential. A fresh graduate doesn't is not expected to have much experience. Well, he may have some experience of having done some summer training or some internships during his graduation or undergraduation days, but you're looking at his potential. Check on his keenness to take up the career and find out why. It is the best to check and get an honest answer as to why the candidate wants to do his articles and do his CA. That may be a very probing question. A few supplementary questions to why, based on the answer that he is giving, should be addressed. In my view, more than asking about his education, the why of his wanting to do the articleship is a very important area where enough time and emphasis should be given. Review his academic achievements. While his CV may have that, if he has achieved something, some rank, or if he's been a scholar, a good idea to check how he is able to do it. Or if he's a mediocre student, maybe to ask why he has been mediocre, what he did, how he tried to improve his scores. If he has shown a graph of improvement, it may be good to check how he was able to improve his scores, how his graph went up at various exams. Discuss extracurricular activities, assess his leadership skills, his teamwork, his skills of working in a team, his skill, check how he is to work as a subordinate, how would be as a senior, what are his communication skills, how confident he is, how he's good in his language. It's not necessary that he has to be good in English. Even if he is good and confident in the language that he can communicate, that's very important. That would be a test that must be checked and rechecked by the interviewer, by you, because you are selecting a raw candidate, but you are selecting his potential. You are looking at his potential, and your organization is going to kindle that potential and make him a thorough gentleman, a thorough seasoned professional. Consider his internship experiences, as I said. That could help, because a worldly wise man is always helpful than a raw candidate. I'm sure I would give more extra marks. I would give credit for internships and jobs, summer jobs and summer placements that he has done. You are expected to mentor and be a guiding force. Uh, it's best to explain the career paths, describe the potential and trajectories, especially your own, of candidates who have passed through and who have walked through the firm and who have achieved something in their career. Give names, give examples, give organizations that they are working. That would kindle, that would excite the candidate to join the organization, and he sees the potential in the firm. Offer development support. Discuss the the practice of the firm, where not only technical skills are imparted but also soft skills are imparted. Every firm imparts technical skills because it is a job requirement. But even soft skills are necessary. When the candidate goes as a auditor to a firm, your client, he becomes the ambassador of the firm. So soft skills are necessary. It would be a good idea to discuss the soft skills that are being provided and how it will all help the candidate in his all-round 360-degree overall personality. Especially candidate coming from small towns, B towns, C towns, they look forward to that because they do come with a bit of a lack of confidence or a bit of a defeatist view or a little awed by big cities because they are coming from small cities. It may be a good idea to explain to them how your soft skill training, how your non-technical skill training imparted within the firm would help him to develop his rounded personality. Provide personal experience. Share your own experience. Share the experience of some others, experience of people who have made it, and of experience of people who could not make it, and why they could not make it, and how he, if he joins the firm, could make it. I'm sure the candidate is looking forward to those kinds of things. In conclusion, I would say that interviewing is a skill and it has to be developed. Nobody is a born interviewer. It's a skill that you need to practice, and practice makes a perfect man. After every interview, I make it a point to mentally go through how I asked my questions, how the candidate responded. Was I pushy? Was I soft? Did I show empathy? Did I encourage? Every interview is a brand ambassador endorsement of the firm. How you conduct yourself as a interviewer, the candidate remembers. He will go back and share with his friends, with his colleagues, with his family. And as I said in the beginning, it's like his first love. He'll remember all his life. He will never forget the first interview that happened in the organization. If you find that you need to send him to another colleague for a detailed interview, if you find something, if you find a potential in him and you're not able to assess properly, or you would want that others already if you like the candidate and you want others to know that here is a good candidate that must be offered and must be cajoled to join the firm, it would be a good idea to send him to another colleague for him to take the interview, so that the candidate feels important, and he should be told that he has made it, but he would like to be exposed to other managers and other seniors in the firm, so that everybody knows what a good candidate he is or what potential he has. I cannot but overemphasize that all this should be to ensure that the right candidate joins the firm. While a right candidate must join the firm, and you must do all the effort that you can so that the candidate joins, a wrong candidate, a misfit, does long damage to the firm, and this damage happens both ways. It happens to the firm because you have a wrong candidate meaning a misfit on whom you have to spend more time, more effort, more energy to train him, to tune him, to color him to the requirements of the firm, and the candidate may lose his precious time and may not gain what he is expected to gain out of his article period. So in summation, I would say, friends, that conducting interview is something that one has to learn. I learned the hard way. I'm sure you'll have to learn the hard way. Practice makes a perfect man. So practice every time you have to conduct an interview. Go prepared, go with a positive mind, go with an intent to hire the candidate. Your job is not to reject the candidate, your job is to hire the candidate. But hire the right candidate and not select the misfit. Full attention, full cooperation, lot of empathy, nice behavior. Remember, you're the brand ambassador. And a good candidate, correct candidate selected for the firm, you will be instrumental in making somebody's career, and he will remember that all his life. All the best. I hope this helps. Should you have queries, do address me in the comment box. In the meanwhile, like, share and subscribe. Press the bell icon.